think I have to change the stream title, which is left from the devlog session. Let's see. Today we are going to fix a few little things, Blender work. Some Blender work. Are going to Blender stuff, some Godot things, and other stuff. That's what we are going to do today. Okay. Let's see. What do I have today? Gotta look at the Blender model for the compost unit. Let's see. Post. I think to know that I have to go into Godot, so I can figure out the asset file name. Asset factory, equipment structure, it's a compost unit. This is the path EQP, STR compost unit. P. Somewhere here we should actually. Okay. Guess Jordan didn't relabel this one. Maybe he did. Work assets. I think he exported it into the work folder for Godot, but he hasn't updated sources folder. Actually, still stayed like this. That is okay. Let's relabel this. This. Okay. No longer post unit. Mind you, I think there's a reason why he did not. It's because this actually has two models. He was right. There is this. There's these two things as a separate concept together. This sorry, I'm confusing myself. There is the single unit, which is this. There is the connected unit, which when you attach to the original unit, they are stacked horizontally. Maybe he thought this was supposed to be a separate model, and he might actually be right, because in essence this is similar to the way we are going to design raised beds. We will have corner and the middle pieces, so that when you lay it out in a certain pattern, corners will just be at the corners, and you'll be repeating the middle sections to fit in between the corner pieces. So then, yeah, maybe this middle piece is sort of repeating, and then we'll actually have the end posts at the end of the full unit. So I get what he's doing, but to make things easy for us, we may actually have to label this one as the model. So we exported, at least the label is done for us. His main ask is to put all these items under one root. I think you do that by parenting. I select all this, we hit P. I think right click, parent. We could, or maybe control P. Yeah, I think P is separate, right? I don't remember hitting either P or Shift P. Anyway, we want to parent things to the object itself, which then wants to be under beam. I think a much better way is deselect this last part, deselect it. So I think the last selected item becomes the parent. At least this way it will look like it's blank. Everything is basically parenting. Blank is parenting every single thing. That is it. Let's try to select objects. Go into export, sky. We're going to export this into rows. This is the wrong name. This has to be, he already has that name. That's the name he used. Material, let's do this. Include, this is all good. Transform, good. Geometry is going to do this. Automatic material export. I think this might be good. So let's go into Godot. I did its importing thing. Let's close a lot of scenes here. I think compose unit now. When we go into the model detail, it's going to have the plank. So mission accomplished. So we've done it. That's off my list for today. Compose Blender unit is done. I should commit in case he needs it. Save the file. Let's fix this Blender model. That's it. Hold on to stage first. Commit, and I'll just push them directly to the candidate. You hit the button? I didn't. For some coffee. Now think of the next item. The next item is fixing zucchini and potato models. Zucchini model. I think that had a sizing problem. The way he showed me. It's plant, VGT, zucchini, so we should find. I think besides the scale problem, he also showed me. Let's see. Why do we have two models there? Oh, yeah, that's still me. Forgot my own architecture. This is created out of this. And this is the game object itself, the asset, which is composing this. It actually has its own model, material. Yes, the size was a problem. But most likely when we export this, it's still going to overwrite that material. Let's at least fix the material, surface, texture atlas. Let's do we actually have, no, we have never fixed this, I think. Texture, this is done. Previewed properly. Material, this guy is. We're not interested in that state. We're interested in it. Let's turn all this on. Yeah, this also needs proper cleaning. Yeah, this doesn't have the file format that we are other plants. First of all, I think the way I did it was I would put everything else in peripherals, and I would put all the phases of this plant under this thing. Zucchini. There's only one zucchini. It's just a zucchini. We need to create a new collection here. Collection will be this. I think that's what I did. Tomato. Just the peripherals, and everything else is just. So seedling withered, all these will go into this area. Ground and camera and light go into. Now we have a simple case. We will even. Did you even move this? Done. Everything here is turned on. We could actually this full ground version. Lovely zucchinis. At some point, I have to come in and then fix the. They actually still have the thickness. That's a future task. Today's job. Let's look at the scale. Fully grown plant. I think I see the problem. This zucchini plant is 2 meters, 2.84 meters tall. It's taller than an NBA player. Question: how tall does this zucchini plant get? A meter, I think. Zucchini plant height, a meter, from personal experience. How tall do zucchini plants get? They actually spread out too, I think. Cucumbers, they like to climb, but they usually don't get any higher than 2 feet tall, which is 60 centimeters. It can grow anywhere between 2 and 5 feet tall. This makes it 1.5 meters. So let's be conservative, 4 feet tall, which is 1.2 meters. So basically half, 40% of this. So we select everything here, say S.4, done. And we move on to the other thing. Objects. Could I have done this? Let me see if I did undo. What if I selected the root? Selected withered. What if we did this and then S.4? Did you really do it? You did do it because everything is overlapped anyway. So now when it's really tall, it's 1 point. Good. We need to export this one. Select objects, export models. Ini is somewhere here. I don't really care where it is. It matches. The fact that this is actually red means it's over. It's overwriting the instance, and I just actually saw the instance here. Let's do this. Save the file. Back in Godot. I think this is where I need to do the. Let's see. Yep, this I think this looks scaled. Let's run the game. We have beautiful looking rain barrels, but that's not really our concern right now. We need to plant zucchini. Do we have zucchini here? We do. Select. Oh, I think it's still a bit hot. Big. Let me double click this, new inherited. Yeah, we fixed it. Wasn't there a trick to, like, when you reopen it, it forgot? Yeah, I've been busy with other parts of the project. Let me close this plant. Reopen this part. It still seems too big. Partly because this is also looking very overlap. And we saved this over this other one, but then this scale. This time. So we'll save this into models. All right. Close this, open this one. I think this may be, this is reading from the instance anyway. Let's click this area, zoom in, type ZK. It's still huge. I think there's a bug here. I just checked. And camera was working here. At some point, the camera perspective has changed. When I hit Z, oh, maybe Jordan created a shortcut to try stuff. It's supposed to be reading that really. It's still too big. Ooh, let's see. What if there's some monkey business here? Some monkey business here. Or we simply do it this way. Urban Farmer Tools, Asset Factory. This is our asset, which is nothing but a plant script. What this is. We'll just create that from scratch. This one, we'll just say you are a plant. Create yourself, which is actually this. It still looks big to me. The preview might be reading it from file, but that is which also has the wrong scale. What is wrong with the scale here? Height is okay. First of all, I should most likely be doing this Control A, file transforms. It's supposed to hold this, but it doesn't. That is good news. objects. Work models. So on. Okay. Did its thing. Double click this. Would you inherit it? Then close all this, because we are going to overwrite the still seems too big. Okay. Let's run the game. See. Yeah, this is annoying. If the preview file is wrong, I'll get that. But when we plant it, it's also planting the wrong scale too. This should be like that. Here, of course, it's going to. Even this is too big, according to the scale. This is. Am I missing something very straightforward that I used to do that I think we need better lights to light. It's any better, but I can see better. Maybe I'm also going to see the problem better. Let's hope. This preview file is nothing but just an instanced version of. So the copy of this is actually here. This file is also using the same. But unlike the difference between this format and this format, this is only showing the fully grown version for preview purposes. But here we actually changed the internal state that we moved the plants from one phase to the next phase. The scale, though, in all these cases is still way wrong. Start Godot again, because there's nothing better to do. Restart things. Let's call our zucchini and Still seems too tall to me. There's no size information. Model import. Anything here that I'm missing? Root scale is one. I don't think we have that kind of problem with tomato. This names. No idea what that means. Why do we not have that? Zucchini is. I don't remember making actually a deliberate choice to pick legacy names. Nothing here that indicates any scaling problems. I mean, my best guess is still to create the model. Planting more zucchini. It's a plant. Create it. This is wrong. I think well, this is what I'm going to do. Delete this. This file doesn't exist. First of all, I'm actually going to go into this model. This is the. Actually, it doesn't matter because I'll actually see if it's scaled. Okay. This is good plant because I created this. It actually created this. The scale is still way off. I think. Obviously. Obviously, it's wrong. At least do this. Save the game. Not that one. Zucchini sky. We can't even see anything. Can't see anything because nothing here was turned on. I get that. So here's the preview. Ooh. Okay, there's honestly something very, very wrong. Select. Well, at least I got the preview back. Scale is still off. Let's think about this. Is tomato misbehaving too? Tomat, want to merit? Select. Nope, it doesn't. What is the difference between tomat and zucchini? Here's a tomato plant, fully grown, fruit bearing, unripe. It's 0.7 meters tall, which is even shorter than zucchini, and yet zucchini's scale looks off. So, in other words, I get that this is going to look taller than tomato plant, but This doesn't look slightly taller than, let's hit escape and then try. Oh, it's raining cats and dogs outside. Okay. Yeah, see, this tomato looks actually proportionally okay. You know what I mean? If zucchini is going to look slightly taller, it should actually at least come like somewhere here, not not like this. Mind you, you can't see it or hear it. It's scary right now. Wow. Okay, I think this problem I may have a better idea. This is what we are going to do. We are going to import tomato plants next to this. Import, is it import or link? Append, let's append tomato plant. Auto, auto there. I don't think I've done this before. How do you? I thought choosing the blend file would actually bring it down. Should bring it. This I've never done this before. Just do it like blend file. Okay. Okay. Oh, object. So we did append or link. I think they kind of work in a similar way. One is copy, the other one is keeping track of the original object. Holy moly. First, we are going to want to bring everything. Select all, doesn't work. There's no shift and there's okay. No scroll bar here. There is. This link. Undo bailout. Use a collection. Create a new collection. Say. Tomat. Okay. Link it. Shift and doesn't work. Shift Control and doesn't work. This you have to menu it this and everything is under now Domat. Let's click this grounds. Let's delete it. Let's select everything under Domat. Let's move them G, X. That's it. So this is what I was afraid of. Something we did not check the designer. That's my mistake. Which is an interesting problem to describe or to be aware of as a designer. Look at these two models. I forgot the shortcut key for the camera. One, yeah, from the side. These two plants. Let's look at this tomato. This is a meter tall tomato plant. You know, like a normal tomato plant would be. And then looking at the proportion of the leaves and the fruits, it's consistent. Then you have something that is, you don't count this extending leaf part, where the stem is ending, pretty much like the main stem is ending. Well, this is 13 centimeters taller tomato plant. The basis tomato plant is, by the way, is along this red line. This one still has some distance. It's sort of elevated. If you bring it down, you're going to see that the top of this isn't too far off from here. And yet, although the height looks the same, proportionally the fruit and the leaves, the proportion of the leaves and everything else, in comparison to the stem, they are huge. So this has been throwing us off when we put it in the game. That essentially everything still has to be scaled down to normal size, and then maybe the stem has to be pulled up manually, because we've been trying to size this according to the stem. Here it's a meter tall, but then proportionally everything is off. So I predict what is going to happen is this. Because we are going to scale down the leaves and the fruit itself, the zucchini, uh, the stem will look so empty. We are going to have to introduce more of these side parts. So there are going to be more leaves, maybe more fruit, so that this tall stem is it doesn't look barren. So it actually looks as full as this guy. Because there is another way to explain why this actually looks wrong. You select this zucchini plant. Um, it's a half meter tall, half meter long zucchini. I don't think this is a competition where we are measuring the length of zucchinis. If we were, this zucchini would win that competition. But in real life, I don't think zucchinis are a half a meter long thing. I don't know your zucchinis, but from where I'm from, it's not that long. So innuendos aside, This has to come down. So a zucchini is usually what, like I don't know, 15 centimeters. Um, so maybe 1/3 of this. So we'll do this. Select objects. We'll do S 1/3. Now that's looking more like, proportionally speaking. Still have to make adjustments, but this zucchini is now 15 centimeters. At least it makes sense. Now, as you can see, this is what I was trying to explain. Side by side, this zucchini plant now has to go taller, which means we have to introduce more leaves, more pretty parts. At least now we know. Going to check the downstairs bathroom. We may have a flooding problem, so we'll be around otherwise. Seems to be in order. So my suggestion is I think leave it as it is for now, because this has so many parts to fix. It's not flush to the bottom. Leaves have thickness we don't need. The proportion of leaves compared to the fruits also seems a little bit off. The distribution of the overall structure is also wrong. So this needs like a kind of a remake. I think we have fixed the scale problem. That is good enough. We'll actually we don't need that part, but to demonstrate our case, we will keep it. So we selected all the zucchini part. We'll do export one last time, hopefully. And we'll select this one. Actually, we don't even need to do that because we have this selected. Done. Go into Godot. This part, we could actually run the game. The game is actually running. I don't know while the game is running, it's actually going to. Of course, it won't. I may even have to re-import the model because when I did that, I actually didn't reassign. But I think see. So when we do that, I think we still need to do this, no? This still looks sort of to me. What is wrong with the zucchini, man? Nope, this is actually okay. That's my station. Mind you, actually still see. Let's move this forward 2 or 3 days. We'll move to the next phase. Should have. There a bug? I'm not quite happy with this plant. Let's do this. New inherited. Open this. Do this. There's something about like doing this, which actually triggers everything else, and everything else is kind of fixed. It's a weird condition like that. This scale is still okay. The height is okay. Proportions are all wrong. See this where auto model go away. You need this phase, not this phase. It's all wrong. Do the same thing for tomato. Doesn't doesn't remember the collection structure though. That's not good. I thought they actually had multiple selector by like there's this, but why can't I do shift and then I'll do delete hierarchy, a new collection. Did I link it or append it next last time? What doesn't in terms of collection okay, that's fine. Big instance. I don't need this. I need okay, this is interesting. So I can actually do the collections. I actually just need this, which should bring everything in. Okay, there's hope, but then it's sort of locked. But delete that. And this should do this. Brilliant. I need only to see the seedling. Collection GX. No. This GX did select objects GX GX collection select objects move When you append or link something, can't you move it in the scene? Either way, I think I have enough evidence here. This this tomato plant seedling, as you can see, it's a half centimeter, sort of say, sorry, 5 centimeter tall seedling. It's supposed to be. The zucchini is still 15 centimeters. So in other words, this is actually working. Just that model has to be fixed. It's a monster. I don't think I should be spending more time on that. We have bigger fish to fry, so to speak. This is sort of half done. I will put a note to note for Jordan. Here's our Godot thingy stuff commit. Music. To be worked. When I got the design done, we did not compare plants together. So it kind of looked consistent in itself, but when you put the model next to another plant, then the portions of each plant looks wrong altogether. Uh, this is, I think, good enough for now. We need to stage all the stuff so that he can pull if he wants. We are pushing it. That's good. We have an exploding potato problem. I He has shown me, but I don't think I have actually run it myself. Inventory, potato, exploding potato problem. This, well, first of all, the scale is way off. You may have similar problems, but also, yeah, scale is way off. Close this and let's go to potato, VGT potato. Ah, how tall is this thing? 2 meters, 68 centimeters. Holy crap. I think we could go about this in a different fashion. Let's hide all the other states. Here's a fully grown potato part, tubers and such. By the way, when I select this, I think this is like the root element. This is of course showing everything, but these are showing individual. Nevertheless, they are huge. But this is an almost like 2 meter tall Or if you lay it on its side, 2 meter long potato. Looking at this is going to be probably 1.7 or something. Yeah, pretty accurate. This is going to be similar, if not the same. It's just a slightly rotated version. Meaning, let's approximate the length of a potato. 10 centimeters. Seems accurate. 10 is fine. So, on average, if it's 10 centimeters, let's take this down to 10 centimeters, which means we are going to uh, if you do 10%, this is going to come down to 16. So we'll actually do even half of that, will actually do 5%. So this is going to come to maybe 9 point something, which is close to 10 centimeters. So 5%. Which means select all this, select objects, hit S, 0.05. Then at first this doesn't work, select everything, zoom in, and then it will work. Which now means that this guy, when we select it, it is only 80 centimeters tall, which is good. And this potato that we were looking at is 8 centimeters. Good. This is the one that we were actually checking against. So we are in a good shape. Save the file. Select objects. This Explorer, guy, models. Everything is looking promising. Done. Save. Go. Done. Let's try to plant potato. Oh, so this is where I always forget that. Where you have to do this, initialize it, not save it. This is still the problem though, but at least let's fix the size. Fucked up. Any potato. It's a plant, biggest button, save. This still looks huge. Never mind, exploded. By the way, I think the way I exported it, I think I still made a mistake. This looks okay to me. Need to save this. We need to override data with this. When we close this, inventory potato. At least the size is okay. I actually fucked up. Go into the preview. This has to be turned on. I want to write some script at some point. That will a lot of manual work stuff. We are doing a lot better, but so here's your proper preview potato. When you plant it, at least it'll go back to a decent human size. Now the exploding part is the concern. I think if you wait 3 days, I'm gonna move. Why is it that with other plants harvestable, and yet the visuals are not showing. Uh, let's look at the difference between this and carrot. Vision, such there's nothing to that because the code is always moving it to this vision. This might be something that I'll ask Jordan. Maybe ah, what he did. Data asset. Difference between this one and don't need this anymore. Well, we might need that preview for potato. There's something about the exploding part yet. Let's say carrot is a good case. Immortal, ready index is 2. Ready index is 2. Immortal, we don't want to make it immortal. Index numbers for the bases. Yeah, I'll leave this to him because we are writing separate parts of the game. If I investigate, it will take hours, whereas he could look at this and maybe 5 minutes. So let's not waste our time. But this is the part that he asked help for was fact that when the plant looks, let's look at the preview, which is essentially just another scene for this third thing. It's okay. Bye. Potato. So when we import the models, they actually look okay, generally speaking, with other. With potato, it started to sort of like explode. Like, see how disconnected the leaves are, sort of stretched out part up. This whole stretched out part, and I believe it gets worse the bigger it gets. Like, it's as if the leaves are sort of shrunk on x axis and then elongated on z axis. See what I mean? And this effect is just getting worse and worse. And yet, in here, everything looks just fine. You know, because we need to import the select all, Command A, fix all transforms. That's okay. You still have everything selected. Export this. Are you applying modifiers and everything? That's good. Look at this. It's fixed. It's the scale problem. I mean, fixing, the locking in the scale transformations, other transformations. So we are good. Let's plant it here. Why not? Potento. Here's a beautiful potento plant. It's so small we can't even see it. Buried anyway. What else is there to see? Yeah, we have a general like a growing problem. I guess that I'm not quite sure what to do about it. But we have carrots working. That's actually small. This scene is also overexposed. There's a green seedling there. Let's fast forward the time. One day we're gonna see it grow bigger and bigger. Let's move it 2 days. Okay. We expect to see the same change from potato, but maybe it'll come to its senses on the weekend. Uh, right now it's taking its sweet time. Let's move it one day, and I think I waited long enough that the carrot has died. It's dead. You can actually compost it. So we select this compost, we put it there, it's gone out of here, and we look at the compost units. This one is actually full. You can see because this is the one we used. We are working out this shader problem that seems to be creeping into all the objects. But we are working out the mechanics so far. This is actually 15% full. This is 2. Let's start the raining. I believe we broke this. This was getting fuller by the... Anyway, let's try to move this to... I believe this is the house, right? We did this. We changed a lot of things. You put this next to a house, it will actually say connected. Use stuff. I forgot how to rotate the unit. We have the camera rotation, but wow, this is actually a cylindrical unit. What else is there to rotate? This one. Don't remember the rotate keys. Nope, I keep it in the camera rotate. You know what? Rotate. Get the input map. Rotate. Rotate preview left. Rotate preview D and A. D and A. Oh, I think he did that during preview, not moving. Okay, that's something we'll add. Let's add compost unit. Select DNA. Okay, we have the preview rotate. We currently don't have the rotate during the move. That's what we are going to do as well. Also, when we place this, I think it put it in the wrong direction. It's okay. While we are fixing things. However, let's finish our work for potato. This is all potato related tasks. stage all, commit, be done. Now I have to go and file up stuff. Organization, you're done. Urban file. Issue. Let's create a new issue. It's a bug. Bug. Object. Placement. We're selecting object we are placing in the walls. Doesn't its rotation direction. After previewing is finished, object placed. Object station. This is a bug. Should most likely fix this for that milestone. I will assign this to Jordan, so maybe he'll get a notification in case I forget to notify. This is we're going to actually put this in the next sprint most likely. So I'm going to assign that. Here it is. We used to have an improvement or enhancing topic here. We got rid of that. It's another feature actually. This is another issue. It's a new thing. We never really talked about rotating objects. So right now, I kind of wanted to rotate the object like because there is no rotate button. I thought of hitting the move button so that I could sort of move it freely in the world and then rotate it. That seemed like the normal thing to do. Maybe most players will also think of that way. Well, there is no rotate button. Let me just try to move and then rotate maybe. And yet there is no such functionality because we have not written it. So you can either introduce rotate left and right buttons, which means this button will also be pushed to the left. And we will come up with a new icon here that is going to be sort of like a transform icon, because this water icon is essentially going to hide or display these three individual watering actions, so that under transform action we could have the move just like this one and rotate left and right. For now, the issue that I'm writing is my console of, because I don't want to forget either stuff. We'll do this for this. Okay. So as far as things I can fix for Jordan, I think I'm done. There's one thing I'll give to him, but that doesn't involve anything for the stream. I think we are in a good shape. Which means we can now maybe work on something that I was trying to add. Constantine, check out origin feature, parent branch, no, out to new local branch, should track, you do that. You are here, Godot, you should reload that. Don't know why I decided to. Project Godot, that's okay. Good, fine. Let's start you again. I have a weird suspicion I broke. Good. Defaults to game, that's also good. Maybe I'll switch this to a neutral scene. Most likely that scene will be interface anyway. This game is color palatable. So this is what I have been working on, some kind of palette, color palette assignment system. We'll also do this. It's refresher, so we can actually keep refreshing this part without actually doing this. So I think I got this sort of half done. So the idea here is this. We will have green colors. So color name is green. This is probably going to be labeled as group name. Then under green label, we should have colors. And this is what I mean. Long time ago, I created materials or material resource files. Here's a color material, spatial material of a certain albedo color. Okay, this was the topic of a stream maybe 2 months ago. So we actually have a script here that lets you choose a color file that has hexadecimal codes, and you choose an output folder such as this. When you hit materialize, it actually creates a lot of materials like this, but it's essentially creating a special material and assigns the code and then saves the file, and it does that for so many files. So that's what we have. So we have tons, a lot of green shades here. There are minor differences, but when they are randomly distributed on a certain plant, like tomato, even looking at here, although these are all green colors, you see some distinct dark and light tones. So the goal is to create basically just a reference work. We want to say, well, these four are light greens. These are just normal greens, and we will have two here that are going to be grouped under dark green. So later, when we do our data work, we may even actually give this task to a level designer. We can say, go and mark the leafy parts of a plant. Assign them a color group name. Say, this particular plant will have dark green leaf colors. then maybe out of the dark green colors, 4 or 5 choices, we'll actually randomly distribute them so that we don't actually manually assign them, but there's some kind of a group assignment. Another thing is, I think another benefit will be the fact that some fruits or the fruit of some plants, they have multiple colors. Could have green, yellow, and red peppers, that sort of thing. So we may even actually have an alternative color group functionality too, that the fruit itself may belong to one of the 3 groups, and then maybe randomly selecting a color from that group. So you could have lighter. If the pepper plant, the fruit itself will actually be red, it could be one of the 3 reds assigned to that red group. But then if randomly the pepper plant will be yellow, then it will actually pick a random yellow color. So we are not at that point yet. Work and assign it, but at least this is where we are making sure that the right names are assigned the right color, individual colors. That's what this plugin is for. And I think I had a breakthrough the other day, but then I think I was stuck at some point. Where was I stuck? I chose this and I edit color, and I think this is where I am editing default stuff. I had an instance sort of setting problem, right? That's what I was. I think I'm going to change my approach to this a little bit because in this primitive version, let's see where I was writing the messy code. I have a color component like this. It's basically a color control with VBox that actually wants a color red, and then this text part. And there's this optional close button that's going to let us close things. The idea in my mind was that you would actually let the developer choose a color and keep the color as a string in assign it to this property, and then this list of property could actually be dictionary item. But I can see the disconnect. The name that I'm choosing here, this code, what if we don't have that code here? Instead, it makes much more sense that this list is displayed out of existing material list. So that maybe you get to select, well, just click a bunch of green things and they're all assigned. Instead of creating instances here. Okay, yeah, I'm basically changing the nature of the problem there a little bit. Good thing to do sometimes when you are stuck with the problem. Because even if I fix this problem of instancing, the problem so far has been that I'm able to create different objects, yet it was basically saying, well, the object doesn't exist. At some point, there's some instance. It thinks this doesn't exist anymore, this part. So I'm duplicating. But anyway, I think even if I manage that, then we will still have the validation problem. Like, this doesn't exist in our list. GG when assigned it. Let's see. The way this is using a grid container, uh, it's good to display children. But then we use item list, then it brings you this sort of advantage. Dark green. Item list will give you a selection logic. It even have multiple selection, which we'll use here. Problem though, item list only renders text. It could render a text with an icon next to it. With this custom display, you have the grid container. You could display any visual item you want, but then you have to manage your own UI logic, such as this color components. When it's mouse entered or exited, should actually show that close button, and then you have to do something when the close button is clicked. Well, in this case, we won't really have a close button, but we should actually certain items clicked or not, so that we assign that material to this color group or not. Which means children item here in this grid container has to interact with the side. It still do signals. To be honest, part of me actually wants to go with item list. If you could figure out a way to show the color as well as the text, but then why do you need to see the text? But then still boils down to the fact that how do you display an icon that actually looks like this color? Another point is, what is an icon in item list context? Here's color color groups item list. Let's read about this bad. Instead of going Rambo, let's read. Mm-hmm. I know in the methods we will have add icon item. This is the texture. This is the good part. There's add item, which is actually text and the texture. We want to actually have texture. Can we have different type of texture? The goal is to display something like this. The name isn't that important, but the fact that so many materials. I mean, beyond a certain point, does it even matter? Have them labeled like this part. So we could just display the whole thing, but how do you read this color part? Display something like for this. Like Godot finds a way to display this from this text value, this color RGBA value. They are actually creating this icon text. Viewport texture comes to mind, but we need a camera instance. If I'm reading the material, such as this special material, do you have any kind of property that I think I found the answer. I'm going to be reading all the files in the materials folder. That's number one. For each file, we may go by the file name as the hexadecimal code. We have some cases where it's actually text labeled. What we need to do is to find the albedo color property. I think it exists here. Albedo color. There you go. Read this from the file. Create an image texture. That is the topic of the other icon thingy. Okay. Create an image texture. We have a one by one picture. And then image texture has at some point we will probably use the modulate. One of these things will actually get a modulate. At some point it should. I recently made image texture. Try this image. This was used in where vertical threshold. This guy is using. Before I did that, I think I fixed the horizontal threshold. So let's look for threshold. This is the one. For the slider part, I used all empty. That's good. The background part. There you go. Image texture. This is the one. You give me your path. Hello. Where's the path? Scenes. Result. It's not really. I guess this is. I have never saved this into the. That's why it's not showing the path. This actually has the path. This is that. Did I? No, this is that one by one. I'm 100% sure because I actually dragged it with this. Either way, this is what I'm thinking, that we will have an image texture, which will use the one by one texture. We are currently using this area, but we are changing the colors with shader dynamically. What this shader does. The missing link here, if item list is expecting a texture, type. If it's an image texture such as this, how do you, because you only have this part available. You don't have the bottom shader part where you some advanced work. How do you tint this? Is the question. Because if we could tint it, that tint will be the albedo color that will read from the material files. So I have most of the code written except this piece. I think this was the same question last time too. That's the reason why I chose texture rect. You could actually have a texture assigned, image texture, but then we could come here and override its canvas item material. Um, that this color group text scale. Can I do something styles first? Selected cursor once. Nothing here about the icon, how the icon will be displayed. It's as if the icon itself is sort of self-managing, whatever that icon is texture. So then the question still boils down to this. You have these textures. Which one of these can be tinted? My mind keeps going to this external texture. I don't think it really go external. All sorts of and no one has answered the poor guy. External texture. I don't think that's our thing really. Yeah. First of all, let's go into the add-on. I want to try something quick. And it's not exactly a scene, it's a texture. So let's create a new folder here. Let's be tidy. Then we need to create a new resource. Let's try this. Now I'm thinking, what if we have kind of atlas? New atlas. This atlas is empty. This is just going to be actually the itself. Is this, so copy this. And I want to duplicate. Create file. Okay, sorry. What the? It takes twice as long to write. You move this to bronze textures. This texture gonna go into here, and of course it won't because this is actually a different file type. So you'll do this, re-import, save scenes, restart. And we do have this guy again. This, now you'll be able to assign it. Use your atlas. Maybe I didn't even have to do this yet, but I want to see whether we can. Modulation, this was sort of a dead end. Not good. Curve texture. Let's change this, label it as new atlas texture. So it's actually curve texture. Curve texture never actually has modulation. What we need is a canvas item that can actually be modulated, also known as tinted. But this texture rect or canvas item can be used as a texture. Even such a thing. A separate canvas item. Canvas item material, just by the way, this one. Canvas item. What is all the controls are canvas. All not 3Ds are canvas item can actually have modulation. All node 3Ds will actually have. What is node 3D evolving into? It's evolving into a sprite. What if we create a sprite? Think the entire canvas modulate. That's actually a node. Sprite. And then it ends there. Note this displays a 2D texture. Tint this. Go under textures, new resource, call it sprite. Not exactly like, cannot really create, it's not exactly a resource, is it? Does it need to be a resource? What if it's just a sprite? Well, where is the sprite going to sit? The tree. So from the sprite itself, 2D, from the sprite itself, can we get the texture down? So we get the text. This texture will be the one by one. I kind of want to get the rendered. So here's what I'm thinking. We will have a sprite sitting in the node, in the tree, which will have that one by one pixel assigned. Then we'll alter the modulation to the color that we are reading from the albedo. Then we want to take a snapshot of that sprite displaying the right colored texture. That texture will be the icon itself that we pass to the item list. So we are kind of on the fly creating a text right color. But I should take a short break and maybe I'll actually think about the tree structure and how we are organizing this here. Because we'll probably do this in a bit different context. Sorry, it took long. Need to clean the bathroom because of flooding. The joy of global warming. Okay, let's the lights. Um, yeah, my mind was occupied with the water. Let's see. Recap. We were going to create a sprite method that will change its color based on the albedo color of the material file we are reading from the disk. Um, the difficulty will be okay. Let's try to do a simple case after I put this piece of chocolate in my mouth. Let's not worry about this color instance anymore. Display colors is something that we are trying to do. Let's turn this color list into into an item list. Okay. This item list naturally cannot have its children removed because it has items but no children. It's separate. Separate UI control to remove this. Um, let's pretend this is gonna come in later when we want to display the selected colors from the previous session. So let's just comment this out. When we do want to display colors, we will assume that color list, which in this case I think just color list, like add icon. Okay. Add icon item. This is the texture part. Okay. Some icon. Code icon. This actually has to be of type texture. Now this actually could be image text. This is what I tried once. You could create this icon from an image, which is actually going to be the image from the file system. We could actually do a load here. Going to be the texture as sometimes we actually get help for this. Why did we not get this? This is still, this is image or texture? It is texture. Create from image. This actually has to be image. Therefore, this has to be in. Oops. Where's the code? Here's the code. You load. Okay. Here's your one by one. One. Copy path. Okay. Here's your path. Path. Create from image. We take another argument. Flags. Let's look at those flags. Flags. Image. default. It's 1, 2, 4. I see. It's map repeat filter. We really won't need those, I think. So we created this icon from the image. This is now we just need to assign this some kind of size, I think. Get size. Let's look at the image texture that we created for this bad boy. Here is, how do you set this size? What is this size? It's just size. So we just actually kind of did this with the code. We just said create from image and passed the texture, which is sort of like this. However, this size is, say, get size. Turns the texture size. Texture. Have a set size. Yeah, set size. Resize the texture to the specified dimensions. We do a set method. And this is going to be a vector too. Let's pretend we actually have 15 by 15 thingy. Okay, so this is the icon. Now do this. Let's see where we are actually calling display color. So anytime we add a color, we are calling that, or anytime we call the groups, this should technically work. Let's refresh this. Open this area. From previous session, let's create a group, add this. There you go. Hitting this is actually triggering this part, which is triggering this part. So we have successfully created an item list with which displays an icon. Normally, this is an item list that just displays text, but we are displaying icon. If I add a color, which is going to do this part, which is also going to trigger this, and that means it's going to create another. We are actually going to have multiple. Third time won't work because this color already exists in the array assigned to this name group, so we just have to pick a different color. We are going to good shape. Now, this color, of course, has to be now pulled from call it those materials. I feel like we are technically done with this. I think from this point on, it's just going to be figuring out the mechanics of how to do this. But the hard part, I think, is done. Of course, now let's do one more hard part. Let's pretend we are reading one maybe we'll have some kind of button like dialog box that's going to let us select the materials folder. Okay, let's try to load the first materials. Maybe we actually have it is this one. We read in a for loop. Okay, that is the one. I think that's the path. It is indeed. Let's imagine we read this. When you load something, it's a resource, but it doesn't actually tell you anything about the nature of that resource. Therefore, when you load it, when you do dot, what do you expect to see? We know we have albedo color, but we really don't have anything of sort. Now, this is what you might actually do something like this is a spatial material. Spatial material is inheriting from material, hence inheriting from resource. So you could actually get away with this. Say var the shader material, which is shader material. It's actually going to do auto casting. Okay. Then albedo color. Oh, shader material. Shame on it. Spatial material. Albedo color. This albedo color will be the tint for the icon. That's really the hardest part, right? We know we can actually add the white. How do we change that image texture? Because this is where we have the disconnect. Remember this? This is just the image texture. This part is what we have done. But as this looks white, this looks white too, because we're just adding a PNG file. To turn this into a different color, that image texture being part of the texture property of an object that actually has canvas item can actually paint that into different color. So this is the missing link. I was hoping that let's try to create a sprite. 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 Fully. Yeah, just give it a red color. Modulate value. Value is a red color. Wait. Every time it's a red color. If we see red here, then this sprite will also load as its texture. Texture we have as icon. Okay. Now what I would like to do is some kind of trick here that I'm actually reading the texture. I thought I saw a method that actually gives you kind of rasterize the image. Like pixels. Like it's sort of data. Let's do that. Get data. There's an image that is a copy of data textures. Images can be actually gives you and has okay. I kind of sampled it, let's say. I modulated it now. Now I believe it's red. So I need a method that actually gives me some kind of data structure. This might be it. This is what I have anyway. Get full byte array. The pixel is giving you get rect, also an image. I think I'm kind of getting to the point of this part it will be done at the end. We just have a sprite. This is where I feel a bit conflicted because sprite texture could just be a normal texture. By that I mean before we turn the one by one image to when you do this, it's a bad place to put the stuff, but stick it in the color sprite. This thing. This says texture. This could be any texture. Right now in this code, we kind of accept image texture, but it could just be a texture type of. The names are too conflicting there. Then we modulate it. Okay. Then we want to get the data, which actually gives us an image. That image, this is giving you the image. And this is trying to accept that image. So this doesn't have to be loaded from here. It actually has to be loaded from here. Okay. Then this icon is going to be that icon. I think I just has to be relabeled, and I think this has to be turned back into an because I said so. I guess when you go to the image way, load the thing, but going back to texture, why is this wrong? Yeah, duh. I think it confused itself. Shit going on, that's this icon is essentially texture, reload, just texture, checks out. And even this could be just done once. I'm just prototyping here. This sprite could be part of the tree that actually has. It's actually sort of prototype. Have to be down here. Creating this from the no. Then this is optional. We'll actually make this red, this color. Let's see if this is working. Save, fresh from the plugin here. An identifier. This is unfortunately still don't actually have an error here. Right. See why this is not working. This modulate. My interpretation is this get data is actually not getting the modulate. It's actually getting. That is the big problem here. So it's as if you have to lock in that modulate change. It's an image that. Fortunately, this image doesn't get any band rate. You know, blending a color you have create from format. What is the data? Pull byte array. Fills the image with the given raw data. Data will be like we are close. Let's arbitrarily add something here. We have a V-box somewhere. This one. Let's add a sprite. We'll hide it. Texture one white. Here is that. Modulate and self-modulate actually is a separate topic. The textures on this is not inherited by children. This is just modulating itself. Let's modulate this to some blue color. Thing looking like perhaps this. Okay. What I would like to do in the code is to not even do this because we've already done this. We've already done this. Okay. We have sprite. This sprite will have get data. It's going to have texture, get data. But see, the problem is when we say texture get data, we are actually still getting the data. This one, but not canvas item. You know what I mean? It's conceptually there's something wrong there. Get canvas item, interestingly enough. Get ID. Returns the canvas item used by this item. It's RID, source ID. RID is gonna go back to this like a sort. I don't think this is something we should. Get canvas transform returns the transform. I was actually so happy for him. Yeah, what happens when you what kind of horror story we'll see? Let's don't do all this. Okay. Just doing RID. Basically useless. But it actually is the whole API then. Wait a minute. Add wait a minute. Canvas set module, which is basically what happens when you click this, which calls this. Where's the render texture? Finish. We were at finish here. Get text test texture. No. Global illumination probe stuff has changed. Has holistic has feature immediate instance. See, no, done. Light. We don't really have any. Material get steam. Now I was just thinking, what if we trigger the material? Do something like what if we have a canvas item? Hello, rectum of justice. Funny nickname, sir. Can only speculate. So, how is your Friday night? I'm guessing you are uh, in Eastern Standard Time Zone. Maybe in Europe. I have no idea how far it might be over there. Yeah, it's lucky you. Yeah, cool. In Europe. Yeah, I have a lot of viewers from Europe. I'm currently asking because I think the stats are not really accurate for me, or at least I get to see people, like I get to see the numbers, but then people who comment on, they turn out to be from Europe. Not sure if those numbers are matching to the viewers who are commenting, but yeah, a lot of people from Europe. So I'm trying to work out a smart way to populate a list like this. I'm using the icon feature of item lists. I'm essentially sort of trying to do this kind of list that is showing the color preview in here, so dynamically, so that we can group those materials into labels, color groups. Let's at least change this. This actually is no longer names. This is like a color group. Let's refresh our plugin. Color group. That's fine. Let's group name. Wrong place to write, but actually Are you a Godot user, or are you interested in the game we are building? Because I see a lot of Godot people joining into. We are doing some advanced stuff here. Yeah, both cool. So I'm actually writing a plugin right now. We have some useful things for us to crank out fast. We don't do things manually because we change a lot of things all the time. It's a system like this, which are reading from the model files, things like that. Um, so let's go back to the working version. This this worked to a certain extent, but we always had the white texture. We could not. We changed the color, but we are not able to read the color after it's modulated. Texture modulate. We need a method that actually is going to give us we have access to the color code. That's not really a problem. We need to create an image texture with that color. This, we add our icon, or we get this icon as a function call to something. It's supposed to give us the correct colored icon instead of the white icon. So what if we had a shader material? We actually don't need this, right? By default, there is actually something. What if we get the material? Here's the material. Let's cancel this. We actually have this hard-coded in the tree. This is what we are kind of trying to get here. This material, let's output this to the object now. Interesting. Making good tools takes long. It is really worth it. Yeah. So our game is actually really big that it will be impossible for us to finish it on time without using tools. Speaking of which, here's a preview. So um, I think I may have the wrong pool, an early version. Anyway, we are working with different branches. We have some branches here. Um, so speaking of which, some stuff here may actually not work. But we will actually let you plant stuff. Yeah, this is really an early version. This should actually say carrot. In fact, this panel is also in the wrong place. I believe when you move the date forward, this carrot is now going to grow. So at some point you'll be able to harvest it. We have hundreds of models, and the models have different phases. So as you can imagine, we need to write a tool. We will have rain system and all that stuff. Here's just a small portion of the models, but then some of these models have 5 or 6 phases inside. This is, I'm guessing, like only 10% of the models that we have done. So a lot of, let's see, it's a big game. So there is also a material about sprite canvas item. So it says null because there's nothing, and yet the goal is to read the final tinted version. Because if this was available, here's this is one by one. It's going to be kind of hard to see, but can we make this like this? Yes. We kind of want to read this information out. When the game is closer to polishing state, are we looking for? I am actually always looking for feedback. But for sure, we have a website. We have Discord. Basically, if you join any of our channels, we will at some point invite people for testing. So you may test it, and that will be the official feedback. We will actually ask questions, some kind of survey. We take user experience quite seriously. So maybe this is a good chance to show some Figma designs. Copying mechanism. Something like this. This may go through a few more iterations, but this is something I had in mind. Normally, in real life, when you want to buy something, you go to an e-commerce website, most likely Amazon, and then to minimize your delivery costs, you try to buy as many things as possible. In this game, however, when you want to buy tomatoes, and you may actually buy tomato seeds from many suppliers. Well, you wouldn't want to go and check out the website or the game context, what each manufacturer is actually offering you by visiting their site. So instead, there's this kind of interface, which is, oh, you want to buy this seed, you collectively see what each manufacturer is offering you. So you are not essentially buying the product right away, but you are kind of making a shopping list. So there are things like that that are kind of working a little bit differently than life, but it's all for cutting down the back and forth, the frustration. There are no really right decisions here, but and a way to, I don't know, follow your order, like incoming orders, maybe keep track of them. These two interfaces, this one and this one, they should look as closely as possible. The familiarity wise, that sort of thing. Yeah, we try to take care of the user experience. This area have seen quite a lot of changes. Um, this plant needs, um, let's say this plant needs heat. The safe heat zone is actually here, it's green. The fact that this marker is here, it's in a good shape. Water wise, this plant is actually thirsty, you are entering the red zone. Displaying information is kind of difficult. We didn't want to throw numbers around. Like these might be the things that are like, feedback, like is it too difficult? taking too much space, we'll actually, we are always welcoming those comments. Like that's why we do the streaming sort of thing. Um, this has seen some changes too, some kind of a balance indicator that for a compost unit, you need to ideally put an equal amount of green material and brown material. In this case, all the compost units we have, they actually have too much, like a little bit more brown material. This one too. So when you need to discard green material, it makes sense that you put that green material into this unit so that you tilt the balance towards green side. Things like that. What else we have? Inventory is, this is probably going to get another round of design. Yeah. Weather system. Are we going for more accurate simulation or what feels good to play? I think a mix of both. We want to offer a realistic urban farming experience, which involves weather and soil conditions. So let me break that down. In the game, we will maybe offer you 10 cities. I live in Toronto. Let's say one of the cities is Toronto. We have cold weather in the winter and really like hot, humid summers. And I know that the length of the season is only so long that I can actually grow some things, but I shouldn't actually try to grow some other types of plants. If I actually do that in the game, like I will most likely fail growing some type of plants. So it will be realistic weather-wise. Soil-wise, if your soil quality or type, let's say potatoes like to be grown in sandy soil. If you grow them in clay soil, then you are going to fail. So we are offering the player a way to swap the soil, swap, so that the soil type will actually make some difference. So in that sense, it's going to be realistic enough. Of course, it's a simulation because every game out there is simulating to a certain extent some kind of dream or idea that people have in their mind. But it's not a perfect, like it's not a simulation like a flight simulator, like as close as possible. There are some parts that aren't going to be made fun, or we'll just say, okay, this is realistic enough that it's like, don't worry about it. But things that matter are going to be in the game. Let's say if you give too much nitrogen to a plant, it will actually grow a lot of green stuff, but it won't actually give you enough fruits. So you have to increase the P and K ratio over N, so you could actually have a lot of fruits. But if you think you are too smart and if you increase P and K early on, then the plant won't have enough green support, enough like thick stem to support its weight, then it's going to crash under its own weight. So we want to actually do that too. At some point, you may need a support unit to hold it up, or it's just going to die. Like it's increasing or decreasing the risk of disease, or well, the goal is to get this condition to harvestable. Anything else will get in your way. Will soil lose its nutrition? Yes, exactly. We'll program that. We want to do some kind of what is that term? If the soil is losing some of the like required nutrition, you will complement it with a commercial fertilizer or compost. But also maybe you'll plant some type of uh, plant. I think they are called cover crops. Uh, So I think one is alfalfa. It actually holds a lot of nitrogen by itself, and then you turn the green stuff into the soil. You basically you don't harvest it. You just mix it with the soil. Next year, it's the soil is going to have enough nitrogen for maybe tomatoes, so that kind of thing. So it's a pretty nerdy game. If you like hardcore simulation games, this is going to be one of those games. We'll most likely have tutorials here and there to talk about, like, well, why do we have three indicators here? So what do they do in relation to each other? Noticing this area is the old one. Yeah, things like that, and like rain barrel. That say, if you want to water this plant with tap water, well, you are actually spending money. But if you use rain barrel water, it's free. That sort of thing. We're including those economic factors too. And we will also have uh, extracurricular activities, such as, well, you harvested your product, then what do you do with it? You may want to preserve your tomatoes. Maybe you'll have like jams, maybe tomato paste or tomato sauce, that kind of thing. Taking your harvest to farmers market will be another feature. And also keep in mind, though, some of these things might be a DLC, because we may not be able to finish all the things. It's like, well, give the players the core play and then keep adding more. Because it may get to a point that's like, well, just for the sake of including everything, we won't be able to finish the game. I don't want to. So far, it's progressing well. Yeah, a lot of different things. Oh, I showed all of this, I think. Ask you, this is similar to the way I think Sims did it. You will have some tasks to take care of that are repairing, cleaning things, that sort of thing. So this is essentially Sims plus Farmville. Not as simple as Farmville, for sure. And it's like Sims that you are managing your garden. Interface. That's what we have, I think. We have other actually complicated stuff that I didn't really talk about. Yeah, I'm already talking. Companion planting. Feel like most games has. Yeah, I don't like the click field to grow. Yeah, I agree with you. Yeah, we hopefully will have advanced mechanics with some nice looking graphics. We want to go with this low poly style. There's something simple and pleasant thing about low poly, but then we want to introduce enough details, like this one. Here's a compost unit. It's low poly, but something pleasant about it. Pile of leaves or just the dirt part. We will have wildlife too. Here's a squirrel. This is just a whole cycle. We'll have to break this down, individual parts. I mean, when this thing is running in your garden and then there's enough detail, like you see what's going on. Doesn't really, you don't really need to see the hair follicles. Good enough. I think raccoon look cute too. This guy doing raccoon things. So yeah, some of these animals will get in your will cause you trouble. Um, yeah, a lot of stuff. Is there anything here that might actually be a bit different to show? Table and chair, trellis, travel. We are not that much into landscaping, but sometimes maybe few decorative pieces like this might be, because we'll have climbing features too that maybe you'll have uh, cucumbers growing. It's awkward here. It's possible. So what's your level of Godot? Beginner, or you're already building games? It's kind of like, I mean, not hard to come by Godot people, but I'm sure we aren't as many as Unity developers out there. So it's always nice to talk to another Godot developer. Um, while I'm waiting for a reply, I'm also thinking about how I'm going to figure this out. We've used it since the end of 2018. That's a long time. I think I've only been using it since when? Since the beginning of 2020, I think. But it feels really super easy to pick up. I find something to be amazed about every day. Whole like plugin system, everything looks clean, quick to learn. Are you a professional game developer or doing it for hobby? Unity since, yeah, yeah, simple 3D hobby basis. Yeah, I was using Unity too, and I was building a different version of this game, which was a basement for growing microgreens. And then I quickly realized that any simulation game, it needs a lot of UI screens. I couldn't do it with Unity's UI system. Need to find a alternative, and Godot was the right choice. So for me, it wasn't so much about the 3D, but the UI management. Like doing all these screens, good luck. You could do it with Unity, sure, but the flexibility Godot offers is like day and night different. And even building a plugin system like this, I try to create interfaces in Unity. It seems okay at first, but then you do a lot of boilerplate code. I don't like that. Here it's as if I'm actually writing a scene like that I'm going to use in a game. This is honestly like what I'm actually doing here. This is as if like a game scene and just is rendered here. I'm writing normal game code. I remember you had to write some kind of special code for interface stuff. Some kind of wrapper. I like the only thing you need to do is like you add this and it already turns into, like, this doesn't make it available here, but you do this with something else and it's already done. Simple. So, what kind of games do you build? Mostly tutorial things, or you do your own game design ideas? Because you've been using it a lot. Like if you say since Unity, like you say Unity since 2009, you might be really comfortable with the way how games work. Village. Your biggest issue was that you needed an old version of the engine for legacy. Ah, yep. Yeah, I remember those days, the transition 4 and 5. Cool. Yeah, working your own ideas. If you're into Godot, I'm also organizing a meetup group. Um, we are in Toronto, but we have our meetings on Discord. Um, so you could actually join online events. So because of the pandemic, we've been having virtual events. So pretty much everybody who knows about the group can join. So we actually had our last meeting on Wednesday. I'll actually, I will actually post the group page into the chat so that people can actually find out. Is the game on Steam? It is on Steam. Chat. The game is on Steam. Uh, Farmer. Let me see what happens when I type Urban Farmer. Do we actually get to see the Steam page? No. It's been up since I think for the last 2 weeks. Here it is. Yeah, we have no release date so far, but you could wishlist us. That really helps us. I believe around November or December we may have public demo. Uh, those names are a little bit sort of arbitrarily used, sort of closed beta, open beta, that kind of thing. But the game in its finally finished version, it's most likely next year. It would be too stupid and ambitious to release it by the end of this year. Then you'll have another cyberpunk case that the game won't be finished. Why rush it? Because we know there's too much work. So why do a half-assed job? But I mean, in terms of cutting the production timeline down, we may have fewer plant models. So it's like, well, that's it. If that's the compromise, yeah, we won't wait. Then we'll actually release it. But if it's core game mechanics, then we'll take our time because that will really break the immersion, and then people actually will feel so bad they won't actually pick up the game again. You don't want to do that. Being said, just checking. I'm streaming on 3 other platforms, so I'm checking the parts too. Sprite. There must be something internally done here with this visual server. Because if Godot can do it, so can we. And the idea is this. For a sprite that actually has a white texture, you're assigning a color code to a property of the sprite. Now the game engine knows that this has to be colored after this kind of text assignment, color code. We are able to read this from somewhere else. That's not our problem. We kind of want to display the white cubes here that we did to look like this because we are going to do exactly this. Except we don't want to do this manually. We kind of want to do it here in a for loop. So if Godot depends on some kind of visual server such as this that does that, let's see if we can actually hijack that. This is where I felt optimistic that we actually read something from the material, except the material is null because actually it's null, it's empty. So how does it do it? It has nothing to do with mesh, no multi-mesh, no particle business. This is the reflection probes, none of these scenarios. Um, I think these scenarios were part of the environment game object. Shader create. This is where we might actually create an on-the-fly shader to something because I remember reading a texture, outputting the texture, the rendered texture from a shader after it is done with its job. We'll investigate that. So you would be fine with a basic game that will get more content. Yeah, we really do care about making it. So far we are a team of two. There's me, and there's Jordan. He lives in Venezuela, so we are a remote team. Um, so we have our daily meetings, and we talk about features that are important for us. But then we always think about what the players actually may care for. If anything, actually, our biggest problem is that as much as we try to cut things down for quick release, the scope is actually big enough that we introduce new stuff as well. It's a constant struggle, but like things that we care about is details like let me actually close this and I'll go back to uh, build. Let me commit this in a horrible state. Color, it's color displayer broken. At least we know it's broken. Don't push it. I'll try to switch to this. I think this has the latest version. Closed. Wish this to thank you. So this rain barrel, you actually see the faucet here. This one has a two, and has a mesh at the top to filter the water. So when things break down, we want to introduce visual elements. Like the faucet is basically broken, the mesh is not allowed, like moved away, that kind of thing. Visual things like that, it matters to us. It's better if you look at things and they look broken than finding that information by text. Kind of thing matters to us. And details like when it rains, yeah, you are filling the rain barrel, but if you keep the rain barrel close to a house, then the downspout will fill it a lot quicker. So there's incentive for the player to keep it in a certain place. Details like that. But again, the gameplay may reveal a different result. These are only our guesses. But the weather condition or the city that you play the game, like, say in summer you have longer daytime. In winter, these two graphic like icons will actually come closer. So any area that is going to be sort of on this circle is going to define your daylight. So we want to give as much visual clue as possible. Things like that that I think I don't know. I feel like the market is missing games that actually offer enough detail. I think we have enough dumbed down things, but then a lot of work to do. 100%, yeah. See the time. I think, yeah, we will have automatic task creation, like maybe when stuff breaks down, goes below a certain level of condition, uh, we are creating automatic tasks, something like that. I think this, yeah, the repair task. It's still work in progress, but a lot of details. Backside. Yeah, we still have some way to go from here. So I think I'm going to sign off in 5 minutes. If you have more questions, I'm really happy. I'd be happy to answer. But I think 5 more minutes might just do it for me. So in terms of schedule, I generally stream at near the end of the week, Thursday or Friday. It's a bit it's changing these days. Take care of some other business stuff. But these are the times that you might actually find me streaming. Most likely in the afternoon, Thursday or Friday. Sometimes Saturday as well. I think I'm just going to move this around. Let's see, this part. It's like that. When it comes to visuals, you think it's important? Gameplay. Yeah, yeah, I think so. I think. Yeah, about the visuals, like say, um, okay, cool, awesome, thank you. Um, this is what I was thinking, like say about the visuals. Beyond a certain level of realism, I don't think players really care. Like you have all those first-person shooter games. There's so much realism. End of today, I think people still care for like the narrative. It's like you go around with your gun, you are shooting people. Like how much realism can there be? Like, what is the next step? Are they going to show like bacteria growing on the surface of a rock? Do you really have to get that close up to like sand or soil? Like, it's silly. People play those games for a different reason. I'll actually make another bold claim that when male kids, most male kids, they will play kind of like a war game. Yeah, they will also look actually kind of thing like they will lose so much because of the aging problem. So male kids like uh, you know when you're a boy, you play war games with your friends, and what you usually find is stick so that it's your gun. When there's nothing, you extend your arm, it becomes your weapon, and you go around, you run with people, you kill imaginary enemies. There is no interface, there is no scoring system, but it's the first multiplayer game you played because it's all in your head. There is no like visuals, but it's the story that you believe you are playing. So that's what matters. It's just the experience. The visuals help it to a certain point, but then it's like when there is no interface, you could still have fun too. But then again, these are pretty much the same thing as this. Group them, copy them, paste them in them here at least. It's done. RuneScape 2 from yeah, 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 definitely, definitely. It is, yeah, it is. Having a certain style is, or that you start at a certain point that like you kind of build a establish a certain level of expectation. Then if it turns into a game of like upping it each version, then I guess that's a stressful feeling that maybe these companies have. They feel like they have to up their game every single. I don't know. For me, it's all about the experience. I have played games that actually had crappy graphics but had a style. As long as the story was there, I really didn't care for the high fidelity graphics. I must say there's a similar feeling to modern movies too. Like there is too much camera shake, too much like close up. Like cool, can you see what we are able to do? That I don't care. It's getting in the way of me understanding the scene. Pull the camera out. I want to see what's going on, not what you can do with the camera. It's sort of I don't know. I guess I'm old school maybe. I find it tiring and distracting when I don't understand the story or if it's getting in the way, then I don't fun anymore. So on that note, after bitching enough and dismissing enough creative work out there, I think I'm signing off. So I don't know from which part of Europe you are, but you must be at least 4 or 6 hours ahead. So thank you for joining, and well, I hope to see you another time. So have a good night or good morning.